Welcome to Story Lounge, story time for adults. You're invited to sit back, grab a cup of tea, a crocheted blanket, a pet, someone else's pet, a house plant, your own crocheted blanket, peekaboo. But don't worry, if you don't have a blanket, we'll cover you in a blanket of words. Get comfortable. My name's Natalie. I'm a librarian at the City of Melbourne Libraries, and joining me is my colleague Lisa. Hello.
Hi, Natalie. Hi, everyone watching.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Excellent. Are you ready to read to me?
I'm so ready to read to you.
You're always ready to read to me. I think I know this about you. Lisa has been running the Story Lounge program in our libraries for many, many years.
Welcome to
And
Story
for this
Lounge,
episode,
story time.
Lisa will be
adults.
reading a poem
You're
and
invited
a short
to sit
story.
back, grab a cup of tea, a crocheted
I'm
blanket,
not sure why I can
a
hear
pet,
myself
someone
in
else's
the
pet,
background. You know,
a
when
house
you do
plant,
things live, they go a
your
certain
own
way.
crocheted blanket,
And I think
peekaboo.
I can fix.
But don't worry.
I think I fixed it. So that's how you make live television, friends.
Bit of trial and error.
Look, where would we be without error in the trial? You know, like if you were really going to make it work. I've lost the ability to see people's comments, but I tell you what, I will fix that. Lisa, I'm going to go straight back to the script and get our train back on track, our reading train. For this particular episode right now, Lisa's going to read us a poem and a short story. You can feel free to drift away as you listen to these pieces, dream, see what comes to you. We'd love to know what you're thinking and what's going through your mind when you hear these pieces read aloud. So feel free to jump into the comments section and share with us your ideas and your thoughts, especially if something moves you or inspires you. We will read out and respond to as many comments as we can as we go. Now, Lisa, we're all calm again now, like that never happened. So shall we move on to the part of the program where you read and everybody sits back under their word blanket and listens to you?
Yes, this is the calm, relaxing part of the segment. So I'll be reading from two pieces today. The first is by Andy Jackson from his terrific debut Among the Regulars. It's a poem. And the second will be from Josephine Rowe's gem of a collection, Tarcutta Wake. Both writers are from Victoria, and we are so lucky to have so much great local talent. A common thread between these pieces is it's just thinking about our place in the world. How do we find a sense of self or a sense of belonging? Is it through friends and family, through experiences? Does it come from within or without? All things to ponder or not as you listen to the readings. So first up we have Metaphor by Andy Jackson from Among the Regulars. Metaphor. I can almost see myself move so gently through the crowd of pigeons in this park. They wouldn't fly away or flinch. But the way I walk is as if I think they peck my face and not the ground. That I need to make enough sound to frighten them to flight, to know that I exist.
That took me somewhere, Lisa.
Where did it take you, Natalie?
Is it St. Mark's Square in Venice?
Yeah, I pictured a public park, a public square as well. There's something immediately relatable about those pigeons in the park, isn't there?
Yeah, there's no grass in Venice. I should research that as a librarian. I would want to check. There's probably a park in Venice somewhere. But I pictured more of a kind of urban environment. I know he said park. Sorry, Andy.
No, he does say park, and yet I picture concrete. I picture one of those concrete squares with lots and lots of pigeons and, no green for some reason.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
What goes on with our minds there?
I don't know, but, there is just something so arresting about that image of walking through and startling the pigeons to know that you exist. And it's got me feeling very philosophical today, thinking about like when are the moments in life when I really know I exist. And I'm going to sound like a total librarian here, but for me, it's actually when I'm reading and when I read something, you know, when you read something and you think, yes, that is how life is. That is exactly how life is. For me, that's the moment when the pigeons rise up and I know I exist because I feel my experience articulated, represented in a poem or a piece of writing. And that's, for some reason, what this poem makes me think of.
Also, birds are awesome. Do you love birds? I love birds so much.
Ah, well, that's interesting because there's a bird reference in the next piece.
Okay.
Another little connection. There is another animal reference in the next piece and a warning an animal was harmed in the next story.
And you can't read it to me. I'm not, I can't hear you.
I didn't tell you this before the broadcast because I didn't think you'd let me do it. But yeah, no, there will be a little bit of animal harm. It's accidental.
Proceed.
It's an accident. It's not deliberate.
I tell you, in that case, I'm going to delay you reading that for as long as possible. I went for a walk around my neighbourhood this morning, and I'm listening to "The Animals in That Country" by Laura Jean McCoy.
Oh, wow! Yep.
I'm loving it so much, and she narrates it. So now her and I are like besties. She never met me, just to be clear, but she's in my ears, and so therefore we are bonded strongly. And I walked past a minor bird, and I tell you what, we looked each other in the eye. We shared a moment.
Yeah.
Now I can go out into the world and I can see a lot of birds and I'm like, oh look, that's got wings. That one's got black feathers. I can't tell you what they're called, but I can tell you I have a deep and abiding love and connection to birds. So as much as I'm terrified, please continue with the next reading.
Okay. So this story is called Brisbane. It's from Tarcutta Wake by Josephine Rowe. Brisbane. And she had this way of swiveling her head round like an owl to talk to you as she drove, except not like an owl because the skin of her neck creased up in folds, and she looked so old when that happened, though she wasn't, not then. And Luke would lean over and say, "Watch the road, Mum." And what I'll remember of this time is split vinyl and continental breakfasts, fights about who gets the passenger seat, a wallaby cracked over the head with the jack handle, and none of us talking till Lismore, even though we know she's done the right thing. We pull in silent to the motel, a low sandy brick L shape with all the doors facing onto the car park, and the car park mostly empty, mostly dark. Our room is number 17, and there is a TV that only gets 2 stations and 1 double bed, which my brother and I fall into, fully clothed, with only our shoes kicked off. But something wakes me a few hours later, and I panic, forgetting where I am. I go over to the window on shaky legs and see her from the back, standing out by the road. A blonde in denim pedal pushers and white tennis shoes, standing in the light of the motel sign like the ghost of 1967, ghost of her younger self, holding a slim beer bottle down by her hip, fingers round its throat like she wants to swing it at something. In the dark of the room, I find the bar fridge, take a bottle of cola from inside the door. Luke lifts his head from the pillow and says, "Ellie, don't you drink that. Those cost like 4 times as much as they do in the shops." And I say, "Shut up, I'm not going to." And I go back to the window. Try to stand the way she does, the bottle dangling loose from my fingertips. Like I don't care if I drop it. Like I don't care about anything. She stands like that for a long time, just looking out at the road like she's waiting for someone to pick her up. In the morning, there are flecks of rust-coloured hair dye in the bathroom sink, and Luke takes one look at her and says, "That's not going to change anything, Mum," because he's older and sharper than I am, but he still gets a slap for it. So we're all silent in the car again, all morning, and I wish the radio still worked. When we get to Brisbane, she's telling us, you won't even remember. And I don't know if she's talking about Dad or the slap or the wallaby or Victoria or that she was ever a blonde. But in any case, I know she's lying. She's got her lips pressed into a pale line and her eyes fixed hard on the road.
Yeah, I'm stuck on that wallaby, Lisa.
Sorry, I probably should have warned you about the wallaby a little bit earlier.
I need massive trigger warnings for animal violence in books. Can you tell me why there's so much violence toward animals in books? Are they just easier to kill than people?
It's a good question. I think, yeah, sometimes maybe it's easier to represent violence in the animal world, and maybe it is a bit of a symbol for the violence in the human world, but without necessarily showing it outright.
Just breaks my heart every time.
Yeah.
But this story's not about that.
No, it's not. I feel like the story, well, I just think it's a marvel of compactness. There's so much in there. You've got the older narrator looking back at a younger self, and the younger self trying to make sense of this adult world. And what I really love about this story is that we know children copy adults and they copy their parents. And so you've got the young narrator holding the Coke bottle like the mother is holding the beer bottle. But I think what this story conveys is that it's not just about copying. It's about a genuine desire to try and figure out and understand what is this adult world. And yeah, I just think it's amazing how such a short piece really conveys that so beautifully. And that's where it reminds me a little bit of the Andy Jackson piece, just trying to figure out the world. Where do we belong? Where do we fit? And I guess the Josephine Rowe story, really points to family and formative experiences as being so crucial in developing that sense of self.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's happened just before the story, and we don't know what's happened afterwards. We know there is an afterwards because there's an older narrator looking back. And we know something's happened to cause the family to want to drive to Brisbane, but we just don't know what it is. But there is just so much richness and detail that allows us to imagine what their situation might be and what becomes of them. And yeah, I just love it for all those reasons.
Yeah. Well, she talks about the things that they leave behind. She kind of lists them. A father, Victoria. There's a series of things that they're moving away from. And
Yeah.
this sort of utopian Brisbane that they're moving towards. But I was kind of struck by that kind of insular moment in the motel where the siblings are kind of squabbling with each other, and sometimes in a situation where a parent is removed, one of the siblings takes on that role.
Yeah.
Often the older sibling, and don't do that. Mum wouldn't want you to, and so they kind of take on that, and so that that was kind of a nice reminder of those kinds of conversations that I'm sure we've all had. But also the motels, like thinking of the kind of the little hatch that opens up and the breakfast tray gets slid in. Like I'm thinking of many like driving holidays and school holidays in the 80s, heading up to wherever driving through Victoria. And just moments in those small hotels where they've got very lame play equipment and a pool that doesn't have any water in it and, not a very large space to kind of play in. But yeah, I've just got that moment of the breakfast tray being slid in.
It's a very, very relatable scene.
Yeah.
We can picture that motel, and she uses such few details to get us there. I think she says things like split vinyl and a TV with two channels, and those details are so evocative.
It's that breakfast. I think she says breakfast tray as well, and that just kind of tipped me off. White bread and baked beans, orange juice,
the small cornflake packets.
Yeah, and you had to tick. Like you had to sort of, choose your own adventure the night before and leave it hanging on the door. Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to talk about the wallaby, but I don't want to talk about the wallaby. But I think if we're talking about road trips we're talking about encountering roadkill. Like that is an inevitable part of traveling through Australia by car.
Well, it does really situate the story within the Australian context,
Yeah.
and makes it recognisably Australian.
Yeah.
That plus the motel, I think, makes it feel very familiar. Yeah. And yeah, I guess in that situation, I feel for the mother, because mostly we're perhaps empathizing with the narrator, but in the moment where you realize that the mother has got the two kids and she has to deal with that injured wallaby, I feel such a strong empathy for her as well, and wonder about her situation, being on the road with the two kids, and pinning all her hopes on this new life in Brisbane too, this idea that we can go somewhere new and start afresh. I think is a really interesting concept, and I found that really relatable as well. I don't know about you, but I've definitely, there have been times in my life where I fantasized about that move and starting again and just making something completely new of my life. And I thought that was beautifully captured.
We've got some comments I want to bring into our chat.
Oh, goody, yeah.
Yeah. We've got one comment that says, I get more upset about violence towards animals than towards humans in books. I 100% agree. I don't know why I can read so many Jack Reacher books and necks get snapped and I'm like, oh, that was a bad guy. Good job, Jack. But something like this, where it's a fraction of a sentence that implies violence towards animals, and the question at the end of that comment is why? Why do you think that is, or why is that? There's a second comment under that suggests perhaps animals seem more defenseless.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, what do you think about the question of why we get upset at violence towards animals from humans? It's not so much the animal kingdom and what animals do. Like that's the Hakuna Matata, that's the circle of life. But when humans inflict violence against animals in literature.
Yeah, I think it is to do with that massive power imbalance, that we have power over their lives and we abuse that power when we harm anyone, but anyone who has less power than us, it feels so much worse. And generally animals do have so much less power than us.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, I think it is about power.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be interested if other people had thoughts on that, please comment.
Why do I like Jack Reacher so much? That's not a comment. That's my own question.
Yeah, I can't help you with that one. I never really got into Jack Reacher.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. That's all right. I'll bring that up in a different one-on-one conversation session. I've got some more comments for it.
Yes.
These are my favourite ones. They say bird references in every reading from now on, please.
Yeah, I love a bird reference.
And the same commenter has said Laura Jean Mackay's book that we were talking about earlier, The Animals in That Country, changes the way you think about animals. And yes, it absolutely does. I swear that minor bird and I were communing on my stroll in the neighbourhood this morning. Another comment for you, Lisa. The minute you said motels, I instantly thought of mini fridges and bad carpet design.
Oh, the carpets. That's a fantastic point. Yes, so lurid. They were just, colours, patterns, very unfortunate. And yet so distinctive now in memory. And even when you happen to still see a motel from the 70s or 80s, they're absolutely sort of locked in time.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah.
Another comment saying animals often don't get a voice in books.
But they do in Laura Jean's book.
They do. They get nothing but voices. My goodness. I'm so close to the end, but I'm very respectful of my work day. And it is true or not true. Wait, I don't know which one I'm trying to say. Librarians do not get to read books all day. That's a truth. We have heaps of stuff to do. And sadly, sitting around reading is not part of the job. That's part of our recreation. And that's possibly why we love reading and why we love books and libraries and why we end up working in libraries. But I have to wait until knock-off time before I can get back into that audiobook. And my bestie Laura and I, hi Laura if you're watching, Is that weird, Lisa, that I feel so connected to the author because they're reading me their book?
Not at all. I think that's what books do. They make us feel so connected to the person writing it, to a community of other readers, and just to the world in general. Like, I think it's one of the deepest engagements we can have with one another and with the world. And of course, it's completely natural to feel like the writer is your best friend.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So she is my bestie. Cool. All right. I'll get us some matching T-shirts or something. That's normal. We have another comment about bad motel art. And we also haven't talked about the bedspreads. So I think motels are like a proper memory for us.
I think they're so evocative. And I wonder if it is because they are this sort of transitional space. They're not the home, and they're not necessarily the destination sometimes, but they're the place on the way. They evoke such strong responses in us. The bedspreads were nubby. They had these little like nubs of fabric. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the name of that fabric is that's raised and bumpy, but that's what the bedspreads were like.
It's probably waterproof for good reason. We've got another, just for ease of cleaning. We've got another comment saying, I love the mini things in hotels. Mini bars, mini soaps, mini shampoos, mini cereal boxes. It is the world in miniature, isn't it? And you're right that it's a stop on the way, on the journey of life, Lisa, if we could be so.
Well, just like this memory is a really important memory for the narrator's journey in their life. She's looking back at that moment, talking about what she remembers, and it's obviously really important to her, that moment. And it does seem like the moment that was, perhaps the journey from one type of life to another type of life, and that has a lot of significance to the narrator. So, there is something about transitioning, journeying, moving from one state to another that I think is really leaves a strong impression on people. Yeah.
Lisa, should
Natalie,
we another 3 hours, or do you think we should stop here?
I think we could go for another 3 hours, but we could probably take that offline.
Okay, we should.
Yeah.
At a respectful distance from each other, at an appropriate distance from each other, we will continue to talk books and reading, and hopefully we will have another opportunity to share some aloud readings from our Storytime program. Lisa, could you take it away with the outro script?
Absolutely. So don't forget that City of Melbourne Libraries has some great e-audio and ebooks, including More Unforgettable Stories by Josephine Rowe.
I'm reading here until August, actually, so this is nicely timed.
Yeah.
If you're a member of the City of Melbourne Libraries, you can jump online and head to the ebooks and e-collections section of our website, and you can start downloading and listening and reading ebooks and e-audio straight away. If you're not a member, you can also join up and have access to all of these resources. Thank you so much for joining us today and for watching Story Lounge. Have a nice afternoon, Lisa.
You too. Bye.